So I was living in Mexico with my mother, my father, my two younger sisters. And one morning, my mother woke me up very early in the morning, frantically telling me to go get my sisters, bring them to the car, because we were leaving. I didn't have to ask any questions. I knew exactly what was happening. I knew, even though I was only 5 years old, I knew that we were finally fleeing from my abusive father in Mexico and moving somewhere else to live a new life. And that morning, we packed up one bag of clothing, got on the first airplane, and flew to Brooklyn. We arrived in Brooklyn with a clean slate. We had nothing with us besides for some clothing. Our visas were expired, and we were about to start our new lives as a family with a single mother trying to raise three kids on her own. So, life growing up was pretty difficult for us. We would be moving from apartment to apartment almost every year. Making consistent friends was difficult, and luxuries were out of the question. And I remember growing up, especially starting high school, I was a very resentful kid. I would always think to myself, why is this my life? Why is this, why does everyone else seem to have such happy, full lives while my family has to suffer and work much harder than everybody else? And it was always like that for a while. And I remember in the beginning of high school, I had finally come to terms with my reality, and instead of being resentful, I turned it into a mindset of, if I can work harder, if I can realize my full potential and actually make sure that my mom's work pays off, then maybe we can have a better life. And from then on, I began to work much harder. I began to really make sure that I was always top of my class in school. I began to work multiple jobs to keep up with the rent and other bills and help my sisters. And in those few high school years where I finally decided to do that, I really discovered myself, and I really understood, in my head at least, who I was. But then, once I started college, I was introduced to this whole brand new world. This world that I've never known before, of brand new people and things and opportunities, and I was fully engrossed. I was so happy and excited to actually explore the world, which was a luxury that I'd never been afforded before. And I dived right into it. And just in my freshman year, I had gone to almost every event I possibly could. I joined a fraternity. I joined the Hillel Club. I was everywhere, and I was loving it. And I got this new opportunity to actually explore myself and my identity and where I came from, and it was nice. I found out that I was very intersectional, that I'm Mexican, Syrian, Israeli, and Jewish, and all these different denominations and categories of things that I never really thought about. And I realized that a lot of my struggles were because of where I was from. And I was really, really exploring it, and I was enjoying exploring myself. And in my Hillel, in Brooklyn College, a huge emphasis was put on being friends and connections between the faculty and the students. Not just faculty and student relationships, but more deep connections. And most exemplary for me was Rosita. Rosita at the time was the student activities coordinator, and she and I just instantly clicked. And throughout my years in college, she was more than just my supervisor and my faculty. She was one of my best friends in college, and because of that, she had always known me and pushed me to do the things that she knew were best for me. And I very quickly got involved in leadership, especially in Hillel leadership and developing my skills with the myriad of opportunities that I was presented with. But then towards the end, especially in the end of my junior year, I had realized that things may have not been so similar as my Brooklyn College Hillel elsewhere. One of the most important stories in my head was I was a David Project Fellow in my sophomore year, and I had been sent as a Brooklyn College delegate to the Latinos and Jews conference in Miami. And at this conference, I remember everyone was talking about what they thought about immigration and Judaism um, and all these things. And everyone's opinions seemed to be very anchored in the fact that, it was all about where they were from. As in, all the Latinos and immigrants felt that immigrants should be treated fairly and equally because they were immigrants. The Jews felt that Israel should be its own country and Jews should be treated right because they were Jewish and from Israel. And I remember thinking, I agree with all these people, but not because I'm from any specific place, but because of who I am, because of what I believe and the morals that I hold. And I started to see this trend that existed outside my Hillel, that what mattered most to organizations was that it didn't matter who the person was, it just mattered where they were from, what label they were able to give them. Like if someone was Russian, oh perfect, then put them in the Russian club. If someone was, Latin, oh great, this is our token Latino. If someone was black, put them in this is our token black person. And that's all that seemed to matter. And this kind of hit me where I felt in my Hillel that I had this amazing connection, and because of that connection, I was pushed to my limits and to discover myself further and actually succeed and know where I want to go. And in this, sorry, okay, so in this realization, I found that my successes, especially as a leader and developing my leadership voice, were because of the close connections I had in my Hillel. Although it doesn't I felt as if other people didn't have the same opportunities that I did. Whereas my Hillel gave me the experience of a quality connection that helped me foster more of myself, and then in turn helped me foster the leadership skills of others. And in turn this helped me foster leadership skills of others. I saw that the quality of a good connection wins out over the quantity of connections. And this ultimately made me realize that throughout my life, I'm going to start focusing on quality connections as opposed to the quantity of connections. And I hope that Hillels and professionals around the world can take this story, my story, and apply it to their own work environment and to their own students. And hopefully we can build a lot of connections that are fulfilling and not only worry about the quantity, but the quality as well.